Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa wala amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Yusumullah here. So we're now into our second video of week 2, and this will be the lengthier of the 3 videos. Okay, here we're speaking about sentences. Prior to this, we gave you the parts of speech. We talked about the word, and that was all done in the first week's videos. And then we moved on to speak about the phrase. And there we gave you your first exposure of how words are connected together to give you more than what you started off with. So there was a meaning coming from the word walad, and there was another meaning coming from the word tawil. Walad means boy, tawil means tall. And then when you connect them together in a particular way, and when I say particular way, I mean that the two words need to both be stripped of al. They need to correspond in their plurality. So if one of them is singular, the other one needs to be singular. And they both have to have the same ending. So when all of those requirements are satisfied, then we get a third meaning, which is description. You see that? And if the two nouns are connected together in a way that they're not corresponding, but instead there's other requirements that are being satisfied, then this gives us possession. So not only do we get the meaning of book from the word kitab and the meaning of Zayd, but we get the apostrophe s, we get the association that the book belongs to Zayd, and that's an example of getting more than what you started off with. You see that? So this can happen in over a dozen different ways. Okay, which all the commonality is they all give you more than what you started off with. And if you're getting predication, if you're getting a complete meaning upon which silence is appropriate, then not only are you getting more than what you started off with, but it's becoming a complete and entire sentence. Okay, so that luckily can only happen in 2 ways. Okay, so sentences fundamentally only 2. Phrases are over a dozen. So in the previous video we gave you 2 of the most common, most popular phrases that you need to in order to begin any reading. Because the whole point here is not to teach all of grammar, is to teach you the amount of grammar that will enable the reading of the beginning of the reading text. And then when the book begins, then number 1, you start seeing all of that examples. Every word, every phrase, every sentence within the book becomes an example. And also we're able to give you more grammar based on the introduction of the topics. And throughout these 6 months, okay, I restrict myself to speak about only those aspects of the language that have the broadest application. So if I choose to speak about any topic, it will not be the first time you hear it. But on the contrary, the only reason why I spoke about it is because by definition you'll see it again and again. And every time you see it, it will add to your clarity and your understanding of the concept, and it will remove the gaps in your understanding. So I thought that was worth reminding. Let's continue. So with our mapping, okay, from the 3 things at the bottom, the word, the phrase, and the sentence, the word has been talked about. Okay, the 3 parts of speech have been given, and they have been subclassified. And from the 3 major types of verbs, one of them has been fully developed, the madi, and the mudari, which is the imperfect verb, will be spoken about in week 3. The phrase was introduced in the previous video, and 2 of the most popular types of phrases were fully developed, and you know their names, and you know the components of each one, and you know the requirements that need to be satisfied in order to create those phrase level relationships, the descriptive one and the possessive one. And now we're ready to move on to the sentence. So here's the very quick definition of a sentence. What is a sentence? A sentence is 2 or more words connected together in a manner that conveys to the audience a complete benefit upon which silence is appropriate. Or you can say 2 or more words connected together with predication that involve a subject-predicate relationship, and a subject-predicate relationship is when the listener is completely satisfied. Is when you connect the 2 or more words together, and once you're done speaking, then you can become silent, and the listener will have understood a complete meaning that could be judged to be true or false, or the listener has understood a desire. Okay, in the case of a question or a command, etc., etc. More on that later. Let's move forward. Every sentence has to have 2 parts. The first part will be the primary portion, and that in English we call it the subject, the topic of the sentence, the thing that's being talked about. And it has to be a noun or a pronoun. It needs to be an entity. The other part is the descriptive part. Now the descriptive part of every sentence could either be another noun. You can have 2 nouns. Zayd is a human. Or you can have an adjective. Zayd is tall. Zayd is knowledgeable. Or the second portion of the sentence could even be a verb. Zayd went. Or Zayd hit Amr. Or it could be a compound structure. It could be a full sentence. or it could be a phrase like in the house, Zayd is in the house. Now in English the discussion stops here, because regardless, this is really important, listen carefully, that in English, regardless of what kind of predicate you're dealing with, the noun, the subject will be at the front. At most, you'd have various types of predicates. You'd have a noun type predicate, you'd have an adjective forming the predicate, you'd have a compound structure, a full sentence occurring as the predicate, or a phrase occurring as the predicate, but it doesn't change the sentence fundamentally. Then the subject would be at the front regardless. In Arabic, there's a principle that calls for further discussion. Okay, and that is that in Arabic, when you choose to use a verb, okay, because you don't have to. Like, there's many sentences that don't have verbs. Like, the book is new, there's no verb in there. Apart from the is, but the reason I'm saying there's no verb is because in Arabic we wouldn't have a word to correspond to the is. It would just be al-kitab and jadid together, sentence is complete. No verb. Okay, but the minute you choose to bring a verb in Arabic, then the verb needs to be at the front, which causes the subject of the sentence to be delayed. Okay? And this would not happen in English, because if I use a verb in an English sentence, it would be Zayd went. Or a longer sentence would be Zayd hit Amr. And hit Amr would be the predicate, went would be the predicate. In both examples, the noun Zayd is at the front. But in Arabic, the verb would be at the front and Zayd would be delayed. You see, fundamental difference. And not only that, but when you have a verb and multiple isms, then in order to communicate, and in order for your listener to not get confused, you need to have some mechanism to be able to distinguish which of the nouns is the one doing the verb and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done. And that mechanism is the process that was likened to human emotions and facial expressions in week 1. Okay, like the house example. The house fell down, I entered the house, door of the house. And we're going to give you more examples of that later as we move forward with today's presentation. Okay, so this is unique to Arabic, that it is possible in Arabic for a verb to precede its doer. Not only that, but actually the verb must precede its doer. Okay, so when you choose to use a verb, then the rule says verb at the front, and the doer of the verb will be delayed. Okay, so we're dealing with a subject and a predicate. Okay, a subject and a predicate, just like every sentence would have a subject and a predicate, but the format is different. That in a nominal sentence where there's no verb, the subject first and the predicate second, but in a verbal sentence in Arabic the verb must be at the front. So this is a significant difference. It's unique. Okay, so this combined with the two unique issues, the fact that sequence does not determine grammar in Arabic, and when you have a verb and two nouns, you need to be able to tell which of the nouns is the one doing the verb and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done. That's one issue. But in a nominal sentence that doesn't even need to have a verb, over there the problem will be of a different nature. It would be from where to where is the subject, where to where is the predicate, especially when you have a long sentence. So how is that done? In English it's done by is. Arabic doesn't have an is. So this is a problem that requires its own solution, which is not the human emotions and the facial expressions. It's not the grammatical states that solve this second problem. It's an entirely different problem, and it has its own solution. So when speaking about one issue and providing its solution, we want terminology that's specific to it. And when speaking about the second issue and providing its solution, we want terminology that's specific to it. So what the Arabic grammarians did is they took the generic terms subject and predicate, and they gave more specific names. So when the subject and predicate appear in the sentence that begins with an ism, we're going to call it this and this. And when those two major components appear in a verbal sentence, we're going to call it this and this. So not only do we have the two terms subject and predicate, but we have 4 more specific terms based on the kind of sentence you're dealing with. Okay, so since it's possible in Arabic for the verb to be at the front, this is going to create a verbal sentence. So we have a nominal sentence and a verbal sentence. Okay, so I just defined them for you. A nominal sentence is the sentence that essentially begins with an ism, and a verbal sentence is the sentence that begins with the verb, which in Arabic is possible. More accurately, it is what happens in the case of when you choose to use a verb, because you don't have to. Okay, we're going to move forward with this, inshallah. It's going to make more sense as we proceed. So here it is. So we have the generic terms, subject and predicate, which you can see on the far left side. Musnad ilayh. Musnad ilayh is the thing being talked about, and musnad is what you say about the musnad ilayh, the predicate. Now, depending on what kind of sentence the two appear in, they're going to be called something different. In a nominal sentence, the subject is called mubtada and the predicate is called khabar, and they appear in that order: subject first, predicate second. In a verbal sentence, the subject is called fa'il, which literally translates to doer of the verb, and the predicate is called fi'l, which literally translates to verb, and the order is switched, the verbs at the front. So the two halves of the nominal sentence are mubtada and khabar, and the two halves of the verbal sentence are fi'l and fa'il, and these are the four new terms. Okay. Now let's see some examples. If you want to say Zayd went, in English the Zayd's at the front, the went second. But in Arabic it will be the other way around. Dhahaba Zaydun. Dhahaba Zaydun. And notice Zayd's particular ending is Zaydun, and that is because of the he, him, his. The he, him, his that we gave you in week 1. That Zayd is occurring in the state of Rafa. It is occurring as the subject of the verb dhahaba. On account of that, it has the particular ending Dhamma. Zaydun. Okay, so dhahaba is the predicate coming first, Zayd is the subject delayed. Subject is called fa'il and predicate is called fi'l. In the nominal sentence, the book is new. The word book is the subject of the sentence at the front, al-kitabu, and the adjective jadidun is describing the book, okay, and at the same time forming a complete sentence, and that means new. So the first half of the nominal sentence is called mubtada, and the second half is called khabar. Now, if you remember from the previous video, the one that talked about phrases, we spoke about how if you take a noun and an adjective and make them correspond fully, then that creates a phrase. You see, al-kitabul jadidu would mean the new book. Here we have a mismatch in the sense that al-kitab has al, whereas jadid doesn't have al. You see, so in order to create description at the phrase level, you have to satisfy the requirements that were discussed there. In other words, the complete total correspondence. So if you miss out on that correspondence, then you end up with something which is either invalid or something which is something else. In other words, another structure in the language, another sanction method in the language. So this is a sanction method. When you take the two isms and you format them in this way, where the gender is the same, the plurality is the same, the definite, indefinite value is different. Al-kitab is definite, whereas jadid is indefinite, then this gives you sentence level relationship. Now, how about if you take kitab and make that kitab, and the other one you make al-jadid, then is that okay? I would say that that's invalid. So it becomes meaningless. Okay, it falls under the hypothetical arrangements of words which are not sanctioned by the language. You see? So grammar is the science of classical Arabic that teaches you the sanction methods. Okay, grammar, Nahu is the science of classical Arabic that teaches you how to connect the three parts of speech in ways that are sanctioned by the language in order to create phrases and sentences. So I just gave you a working definition for grammar, which until this point I've been delaying. Okay, so you might want to write that down. You rewind the video, listen to it again, write that down, and that's only half of it because there's more to it, which we'll give you the entire complete definition in week 3, inshallah. Let's continue. Okay, so in a verbal sentence, the thing you need to understand, the most important aspect of a verbal sentence is that the doer of the verb must follow the verb. Okay, so dhahaba Zaydun, Zayd went. And in a nominal sentence, first of all, you don't have to have a verb in a nominal sentence. Like it could just be two isms, and more specifically two nouns, what the English people would call nouns. Zayd is a human. Or it could be a noun and an adjective, like the book example that we gave on the previous slide, al-kitabu jadidun. There's no verb in either of those two examples. Or you can have a verb coming later in a nominal sentence, but then that would be advanced, and we're going to speak about that on the next slide. So let's look at the basic example of a nominal sentence. Al-kitabu jadid, the book is new. So al-kitab is what we call the mubtada, and jadid is what we call the khabar. So you'd have to be able to distinguish it from the phrase level structure, but then apart from that, it's pretty obvious which part of it's the subject, which part of it's the predicate. There's no issue yet. Okay, when it gets longer, then there's the issue, which we'll speak about as we move forward with the presentation. Okay, now here's the third type of format where the noun is followed by a verb. So first of all, based on the principle I just gave you, that the subject, the doer of a verb, must follow the verb, automatically that rules out the noun at the front being fa'il. Okay, so how do we label it? So Zayd at the front is not the subject of dhahaba, but instead it's the subject of the greater sentence, what we call mubtada. Okay, and then within dhahaba we would assume a huwa, okay, which is the default pronoun for conjugation number 1. You see that? And it will be done like this. Okay, so it looks like there's 2 words, but in essence, the total number of words there are 3. And you can think of it as another example of comprehensiveness at the sentence level, that what appears to be 2 words is actually 3. The total number of meanings is much more, because dhahaba is tense, there's past tense in there, there's active voice in there, and then there's stress because Zayd is repeated twice. Okay, so the basic dhahaba Zaydun was reformatted into Zaydun dhahaba, which means that Zayd definitely went. Okay, Zayd, he went. In other words, there's no question that Zayd went. You see that? So there's connotations for the nominal sentence which make it more superior to the verbal one. So like everything else being equal, if you want to say Zayd went, you would say dhahaba Zaydun. But if you're speaking to someone that's sort of confused, and you want to speak with more stress, if you want to speak with more stress, then you would opt for this format. But just know that the Zayd at the front is not the doer. The Zayd at the front is the mubtada, the subject of the nominal, and then within the nominal, the predicate happens to be verbal, so the verb would have its own subject, which is a huwa. So it would become a repeated mention of Zayd twice. First explicitly and the other one implicitly. Like that. More on this later. As we see the structures occurring in the Qasas book, you're going to see it a million times. Every time you see it, it can only get more clear. It's not going to get more obscure. Let's continue. So here's the issue in the verbal sentence. Okay, when you have a verb and you have multiple isms, because what we gave you was the minimum for a verbal sentence, there has to be a verb and a doer. Okay, but apart from that, every verb has details. So there's going to be the question what, the question when, and where, and when, why, or how. You see? And if it's a movement, if it's something that like travel, then it can have an origin and it can have a destination. So there's really no limit to the length of a verbal sentence. Okay, so let's keep it basic. If you have an action like hitting and helping, then along with the verb, you can expect there to be 2 isms. One of those 2 isms will be the one doing the verb, and one of those 2 isms will be the one upon whom the verb is being done. Now, you need to have a mechanism. The listener needs to know clearly which of the nouns is the one doing the verb, and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done. So every language needs to address this problem, this issue. So Urdu does it by introducing extra words. So not only do you have Zayd and Amr and the particular verb, whatever it is, like hitting, you would have a 4th and a 5th word. The purpose of the ne would be to show that the word immediately preceding it is the subject. So you say Zayd ne Amr ko. So Zayd is the subject and Amr is the object, and the ne is what told us that, and the ko is what told us that. Okay, you switch it around and the meaning changes, but there's flexibility in the sense that you can delay the doer and you can bring forward the object. You can say Amr ko Zayd ne, and the meaning would be clear. The listener would know which of the nouns is the one doing the verb and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done. So the verb and the 2 nouns could be formatted in 6 ways, but you have to use 5 words. You can't do it in 3. In English, it's done by the sequence, the order of how the words appear. The word that's at the front is automatically the subject. The verb will be in the middle, and the object will be 3rd. Zayd hit Amr, and if you try to switch it, then it changes the meaning. So how is it done in grammar? In grammar, you don't need extra words, first of all. Okay, so we have a particular method to determine which of the nouns is the one doing the verb and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done, and that does not require extra words. And also, it remains flexible, so the verb and the 2 nouns could be formatted in 6 different ways. So here on the screen, you're seeing all 6 of them. The one in the top right corner is the standard format. So daraba means hit. Okay, Zayd is Zayd, the doer, and Amr is the person upon whom the hitting is happening. Okay, now Zayd's particular ending is telling us that it's the doer, so it's the equivalent of the ne. And Amr's particular ending is telling us that the action is happening to Amr, so that's the equivalent of the ko. So once you have that, then you're free to rearrange it in different ways. So if you go to the left side, daraba Amran Zaydun, that essentially means the same thing. Zayd hit Amr, and so do the ones at the bottom. The ones where Zayd is at the front is actually 4 words. Zaydun daraba Amran would be 4 words, because inside daraba you would need to have a huwa that would satisfy the requirement of daraba subject needing to follow it. So Zayd would not be the subject, it would become like an even more impactful and complex compound structure. So the rest of them are 3 words. Like the top one, the one that I've circled in green, is 3 words. Fi'al, there's the fi'al there, daraba, there's the fa'il, Zayd, and there's the object Amr. And the one beside that is also 3 words. fi'al. The only difference is that the object's coming first and the subject is delayed. But other than that, same basic meaning there. The one underneath, Zaydun daraba amran, is 4 words. Okay, Zaydan amran daraba is also 4 words. You see? Okay, so you can pause the video and think about them somewhat. Okay, but essentially they all mean the same thing. They mean Zayd hit Amr. 6 different ways of saying Zayd hit Amr. You see? So what's the purpose of having so many? So everything else being equal, is the one that's circled in green that you'd use. If your audience already knows that the hitting happened, and they already know that Zayd is the one that is doing the hitting, and the only piece of information that you're giving to them is the fact that Amr was the one that was hit, so you would use this one, the one that's circled in yellow. And here's the precise translation for the one that's circled in yellow. It was Amr that Zayd hit. It was Amr that Zayd hit. You'd have to use all of those words, okay, in order to convey that meaning, because the hitting part is understood. The listener already knows that the hitting happened. The listener already knows that Zayd did the hitting. It was Amr that Zayd hit. Okay, now in English I needed 6 words to do that. In Arabic we did it with the same 3 without introducing any new words. So you see, that's an example of comprehensiveness of the Arabic language at the sentence level. Unless it's like Yoda, for example. Yoda would say Amr Zayd hit, and that's how he would speak. But you see, his reformatting of the sentence is meaningless because he does that everywhere. Reverse grammar. Yoda, Star Wars. Okay. So otherwise, like, it's not, people don't speak like that. Like, you know, the noun at the front automatically is the subject in English, and the verb is in the middle, and the noun at the end is automatically the object. SVO, subject, verb, object. Okay, so what do we have so far? We have every language needs to solve this problem. Which of the nouns is the one doing the verb, and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done. Some languages do it with extra words like Urdu, a ne and a ko, which allows for flexibility. Since we have the ne and we have the ko, we can arrange the verb and the 2 nouns in 6 different ways. Other languages don't need extra words, so it's good. It's comprehensive in the sense that you only need 3 words, but then it's rigid and it's not flexible. Arabic is the most superior method because Arabic does not use extra words, and also we can format it in 6 different ways. And the benefit of having so many ways of formatting it is to be able to stress and to be able to create precision between our speech and the requirement of the situation. So let's continue. So the issue in the verbal sentence is that sequence does not determine grammar, and the solution to it is the grammatical states, the entire process that was likened to human emotions and facial expressions. And we're going to talk more about that in week 3, inshallah. And it's by giving the last letters of the ism distinct voweling. So when you see the dhammas at the end of Zayd, you know Zayd is the one doing the verb. And when you see the fatha at the end of Amr, you know Amr is the one upon whom the verb is being done. Now it doesn't matter which one's first and which one's second. In the nominal sentence, the issue is one of a lack of is. So if you have a 2-word sentence, then it's pretty clear which noun is the subject, mubtada, and which noun is the khabar, because the only thing you need to do is distinguish it from a phrase, and that's easy because phrases need to correspond, you see. And in al-kitabu jadidun, the word jadid doesn't have an al, so that's sufficient in distinguishing it from a phrase. So what you would do is you would just drop the is in between, and you would say the book is new, you see. So it's these 2 structures that you the one on the right side is the phrase level one, and that means the new book. The one on the left side is the sentence, the one we're dealing with, al-kitabu jadidun, and the difference between the 2 is clear. Okay, but when the sentence becomes larger, then now there's an issue, because if it's 10 words, would the division be 5 and 5? Like the 5 words at the front together connect and form the mubtada, and the 5 words at the end connect together and form the khabar? Not necessarily. It could be 1 and 9. It could be 1 word on its own as the mubtada, and 9 words together connecting and forming the predicate. So how do we tell from where to where is the subject and where to where is the predicate? Okay, now again, in the verbal sentence, the issue was that of distinguishing which of the nouns is the one doing the verb and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done. Here it's a different problem. Here we're dealing with a large sentence, and we have no is, and we have to divide the 2 halves of the sentence. So from where to where? Over there it was which. Over here is from where to where is the subject, and where to where is the predicate. And this time when I say subject, I mean mubtada. I don't mean doer of a verb. I mean mubtada. And when I say predicate, I mean khabar. So the mubtada and the khabar, the division needs to be clear. Okay, so the problem is the lack of is. So how is this solved? So let me give you a very long sentence. For example, in English, I would say the ancient book written in 2500 BC by Sun Tzu is available in the bookstores. So everything prior to the is, which was a lot of words, like 8 or 9 words there, together connect and form the mubtada, and available in the bookstores would be the predicate, and the is would distinguish between the two. In Arabic there wouldn't be an is. Okay, so this is like the biggest mistake people make, and I know, because I've taught like dozens of groups of students, like thousands of students, and they read to me, okay, which is something that you'll get an opportunity to do, inshallah, from next week, from the 3rd week of class. So when they're reading to me, even having covered sufficient amount of grammar, I see this mistake more so than any other mistake, is that they drop the is in the wrong place. Okay, so they fail to understand the phrase level relationships. So here's how this problem is solved. The lack of is issue is by going from right to left. Because Arabic is written from right to left, and looking between each two words, each pair of words, for one of those sanctioned phrase level relationships, 2 of which have been given to you in the previous video, and the rest will be given to you over the course of the next 7-8 weeks. So once you know them all, then you look for them, and when you see wherever they all exhaust and wherever they all end, that's where you drop the is, and that's where the predicate begins. And I'm going to give you a very clear example of this on the upcoming slide. Okay, but first of all, phrase level relationships, 2 of them were given to you in the previous session, and we're just reminding you of those 2 here. The possessive one is where you have the 2 nouns arranged in this particular way, where the first noun is empty of al and tanween, and the second noun has the jar, kasras at the end of it. Okay, in the descriptive phrase, they're both empty of al, and they both have the same ending, and not only that, but they have the same gender and they have the same plurality, tall boy. Okay, so here's the example of dropping the is in the correct place, where the phrase is exhaust. Okay, the sentence is Kitabu Zaydin Jadidun. Translation is Zayd's book is new. Okay, so you see the word kitab and the word Zayd do have a relationship, because number one, the word kitab does not have the al and it doesn't have the tanween, and Zayd is in jar, so it has all of the components of the possessive phrase that were taught you in the previous video. So those 2 together would connect. Now Jadid, is it related to Zayd in the sense that it's matching Zayd? So are we talking about a new Zayd? Obviously we're not, right? So there, Zayd's definite, whereas Jadid is indefinite, and Zayd has a different ending, Jadid has a different ending. So there's no, and not only that, but the rest of the 12 are also not applicable. Like, you'd have to know them all in order to be able to do this properly. But just assuming that none of the phrases are applying, so that's where we drop the is. So this is what we do. We take those 2 words, kitab and Zayd, and label them as the mubtada, and we take the 1 word on its own, Jadid, and label that as the khabar. So that's the top layer division, 2 and 1. You see, and then within the mubtada we have the word kitab and we have the word Zayd, and they're connected together in a phrase level relationship. You see that? So that's mudaf, and Zayd is mudaf ilayh, and that's your first example of parsing. And as we move forward, inshallah, you'll come to a stage where whatever sentence is thrown at you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the sentence is 17 words long. You will be able to do what we just did right now, effortlessly. Okay, and let me tell you, you can be reading 2, 3, 4 texts in grammar and still not be able to do this. You can be studying Arabic for multiple years at the university level and still not be able to do this. What we do is we have our 132-page grammar text. But prior to that, the student already knows how to do this 90% of the time. They'll already be fully comfortable with this parsing method, where they can take any sentence, regardless of the length of the sentence, and be able to easily, effortlessly break it down into its major portions. Okay. In the case of the verbal sentence, we'll have a fi'l, a fa'il, and we'll have multiple adverbs. So that's how verbal sentences are dealt with. In the case of a nominal sentence, the top layer division will be 2. The question is from where to where. Okay? So you draw the green boxes, and you'd know how many of the words would be in box A and how many of the words would be in box B, and then you'd further zoom in and you'd keep doing it until each word is in its own box. So this is the box method. Inshallah, it's something that we do consistently, and we start doing it from as early as the 3rd week of class. Actually, I've already done it for you on this video, and you'll notice that in the Stories of the Prophets book, every session, okay, I will pull out the tablet and the pen. Okay, because we're not going to be doing PowerPoint anymore. It's going to be a scanned image of the book, and inshallah I'll change the color of the marker and I'll do it for you again and again. and I'll carefully choose the sentences to do it with. I won't do it with every sentence, because doing it with every sentence presupposes that we've taught all of grammar, and clearly that's not the case, because in the first 3 weeks we do not teach all of grammar. We teach the aspects which we deem to be the most broadly applicable. You see that? So what we've taught in the introductory theory will be highlighted immediately. Okay, anything else will be based on my judgment, whether to talk about it or to delay it until later. And the author sort of plays with us in that he chooses to introduce the structures at an appropriate time. And it's somewhat startling how accurate that is. Okay, and I'll give you examples of that. Like, for example, a relative pronoun is an advanced topic in grammar. A relative pronoun, alladhi, who, what, which. So if you open up the Stories of the Prophets book and look for the first occurrence of alladhi, you'll notice that it's on page 16. Okay, I'm not sure whether that's exactly the same page. Okay, but anyways, it's much later. Okay, it doesn't happen in the opening 10 pages. And guess what? That's exactly the time that I would choose to speak about it to my students. So the author brings it, I speak about it. The author brings it, I speak about it. So like, it's sort of my method and that author's introduction of the structures. It's congruent, and it's to a startling degree. Okay, and every time I see that happening, it sort of boosts my confidence and encourages me for, it's like something to be proud of. So anyways, I think that's sufficient for this session. Okay, and inshallah, in the third video of the second week, week 2, we're going to give you variations of the past tense verb. And that would be all. And inshallah, we'll see you in the live sessions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.